Jedi Knights and Sith Lords, and welcome to the Star Wars Artefacts Show. And tonight we have a very special show planned for you guys. We have, as you can see right now, a guest, Mickey Lee Bukowski, who is the detachment leader of the 501st Pathfinders. Mickey, welcome to the show.
Hello there.
All right.
Welcome.
So, I always have like a icebreaker question, and I want to know what is your favorite Star Wars project aside from the original trilogy. So it could be a
Let's-
book, it could be a TV show, it could
Oh,
be.
that's easy.
Go
That's
ahead,
easy. Andor.
Yeah,
Andor. All
just from
right.
following your
Well,
Facebook, I knew that was coming. Yeah.
It's the only thing that even comes close to the original trilogy in terms of artfulness, in my
True.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Eric and I covered the episodes. We broke down every single episodes, and we were absolutely in awe of that show. I mean, it was so
Yeah,
great.
it even edged out Rogue One for me. I feel like Andor is the more competent of the two. I
Hmm.
loved Rogue One. It was my second favorite for the longest, but Andor just kind of knocked it down a peg.
Okay,
So
and
where
we
does
obviously can't
Andor?
wait for season two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope that the writer's strike doesn't derail it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so true.
so where does Rogue
I mean,
One sit with the original trilogy? If you were to put those back in the
right
fold.
after,
Okay.
you know, for me it was like original trilogy, Rogue One, Solo, everything else.
Solo. Wow. It's not a.
I love
I
Solo.
loved it too, but it's not something you commonly hear right anymore. It's like or ever.
I
Hmm.
I never
So much hate for it. I feel bad.
I I never believed that people were really angry with Solo. I think they were still upset about the Last Jedi,
Hmm.
and Solo was the next thing that came along, and they just took it out on it.
There's that
Yeah,
overdose of Star Wars and all that stuff that people were talking about as well. That there was just so much coming out, and they were questioning, I guess, the quality and all this. But then there's also rewrites, right, in Solo. So I'm curious to know what was originally there before. I think it was Ron
Yeah.
Howard, right, that came in and took over. So I don't think that was a
oh,
mistake, though.
you say took over, I say save the project.
Yeah,
I think.
probably.
Yeah, I mean, could be. Um, Although, Lord and Miller have such a great track record, I would have
Hmm.
been curious to see what they had come up with.
I doubt we'll ever
And
see that, though.
I'm still hoping that one day they decide, either in the form of a TV show or actually one or two more movies. But I want to know the rest of that story arc. I mean,
Yeah, I think the story, I think TV show is the only way to go. But
hmm.
they have some challenges, I guess, with Ray Park. That's a little
Yeah,
derailed, I guess, and it's some off and on, and I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to continue that project because I mean the whole point would be to have Maul back in there, right? So
Yeah.
who knows?
So yeah, I assume that Emilia Clarke would be in. She's been in Game of Thrones, obviously. So TV shows are no strangers for her. And I don't know about. I always mess his name. Who played Solo?
Alden
Aiden.
Ehrenreich,
Ivan Reich. Ivan Reich. Okay, that's it.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. That name is a mouthful for me.
I just saw him in Cocaine Bear, and I thought he was great.
Oh, I
You
didn't,
know,
haven't seen
I
that yet.
gotta watch that movie. Yeah.
it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't great. It was fine.
I think I'm already managing my expectations anyway. So,
It was fine.
so I my first question, I guess, would be like for those who know the 501st Legion, and you being the detachment leader of the Pathfinders, what exactly is a detachment versus the 501st Legion? That's the more global group that's recognized.
Sure. I just went through all of this dealing with the Endor photo shoot that we just did. So, and having to explain all this stuff. But basically, the detachments are like the build groups of the Legion. Like it's our job to get you in armor so that you
Okay.
can go troop for your garrison.
Mm-hmm.
and we also write up the standards for the costumes. So it's like that two-prong sort of thing. We write the requirements, and then we help troopers get approvable costumes.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people don't come to us. A lot of people don't even know there is a detachment. It happens, but if you start your 501st journey with the detachment for your costume, I think you'll generally have an easier time because we're dedicated to making sure you get approved.
Yeah.
Folks in your garrison, they're being pulled in different directions. They got to troop, they got to organize, they got to, detachment. That's all we do.
Yeah.
We research a costume, we help you get it right.
And I guess you can point the ones who are building their costume in the right direction to buy the right pieces at the right places, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, a lot of people try to strike out on their own. They buy a bunch of stuff off of eBay. They find their way over to us, and then we're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, guy, you blew eight
That
hundred
doesn't work.
dollars."
But
It happened.
the most I think for me is the builds, the armor builds. Like people start their own threads and their journey, and you could read, and just through that you can exactly what you just said. You see their trial and error, and you're like, okay, well I can skip these 5 steps and
Yep.
go right to where he started going right on this, and that's definitely
Because
the way that I did it because my stormtrooper, the TK that I built was pretty much already built for me. I told the guy to try to like put the system together because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't think I was gonna be manual at all. Like I didn't think I'd be able to put together. And then I ended up getting it, having to readjust so much of the strapping anyway that I should have just done it. And then when I did
yeah,
the scout trooper, I did it from scratch, and then I realized I really should have done the first one. I would have been more happy having built it from scratch rather than
sure.
get someone
Hmm.
else to do it. So but that was definitely
Yeah,
like that's the fun part, I guess, is just looking at everyone else's journeys, I guess, to their final product. So
right. And that's what I did when I first joined the detachment 9 years ago. I
Wow.
just read and read and read and learn from other people's mistakes, learn from example, so that when it was my build, I was a little better prepared because I didn't know anything either. I am not a crafty person at all. I'd never
Okay.
done anything like this until I built my first scout.
Hmm.
and there it is. There you see the screen, right, Mickey? On the
I
at
do.
the
Yeah,
okay.
Excellent. Yeah.
that's like my what build number would that be? Two
Okay.
Like build
the
number or
second build?
revision or
Yeah, second
yeah.
revision. I'm now on to my third, which
Okay.
I just finished right before the Endor shoot.
And
Um,
what would be the difference between version 2 and version 3?
the I have a whole new set of armor. There we
Oh,
go.
okay.
I have a whole new set of armor, and I redid a lot of my soft goods. And I'm at the point now, my first revision. I mean, my not revision, my first version. It's like I had to send out for a lot of this stuff. Um, Now it's like, oh, I need a new cummerbund. Well, let me pull out the sewing machine. you know,
Oh yeah.
I
Okay.
I
I'm not
do
there.
like
This
the cummerbund, the cod piece. Like I just made all that stuff like a week ago,
wow.
right before I left to go up to the redwoods for the shoot.
So that I'm not sure if I have the picture in here, but oh yeah, I think so. That's
That's
not that, right?
that's
That's your
not
group photo.
no. This is the Southern California garrison. We did a indoor shoot, but obvious. Here we go. This
Yeah.
is on location in one of the filming, locales for Return of the Jedi.
Is that the same tree that's broken over like that that's been there for 40 years or whatever it is at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was told.
Wow. I have to find reference photos to see if like it's the same kind of like I mean, I'm sure there's been some kind of wear and tear obviously from nature, but
Sure.
it definitely looks like that spot where they is it that one where they dipped under and someone over, someone under? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but also, I mean, redwoods are very, very sturdy trees. I mean, some of them
Yeah.
are hundreds and even 1,000 years old. So that thing could have been tipped over like that, before there were even humans living
Yeah.
in North America. We don't know,
It might have been broken by dinosaurs. That's what you're saying.
or they get a lot of like lightning and fire damage, and they can really take a beating. Um,
Hmm.
this was my first time seeing the redwoods up in Northern California, where Return of the Jedi was shot. A little bit north of LA, which is where I live, we have the Sequoia National Forest, and that's the sequoia trees, and they're like the really, really big, wide ones.
Yeah.
The redwoods tend to be a little skinnier and really tall, and the sequoias are like really, really wide. And I've done photo shoots up there too, and yeah, there's some tough
Well,
trees,
I'm
man.
looking at the trooper that's right over like the broken piece, and like he looks pretty small compared to that tree behind him. Is that a
Mhm.
force? Is that Anakin or who's
It's
that?
Force Anakin, right?
That's
Force Ghost
yeah,
Yeah.
Anakin.
yeah. I when we organized the photo shoot, I was like, come one, come all.
Yeah.
Whether you have a Return of the Jedi costume or not, we
I
want everybody
gotta.
to come out. We got a shore trooper.
Yeah. Nice. I guess it's around the same era anyway, right? So I mean,
Well,
yeah.
also, to be fair to Alex Cobb, who came down from Cloud City Garrison, the ocean is only like a 20-minute drive from here. So
Wow.
Hmm.
he was, in the right area.
So that
Little lost.
force obviously was never a victim of all the fires that you have, I guess, in the forest
In
over there. And
California,
yeah,
yeah. Because I
I,
remember last summer there was a lot of fires in California.
yeah, I don't, I didn't hear about, the redwoods.
I
It
would
is
assume not.
definitely a damper place
Okay,
than
I guess you
a
can see
lot
the
of other
mold
places in
on the tree
California.
there.
Yeah, there's like mold and moss, and there's all these like ferns and everything. It's a lot greener than some of the other places here in California.
But just seeing the trees, it must have been like a pinch yourself moment, right? Just
Yeah,
to be
I
there.
was like, well, I know where we're taking the photo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Here's our spot.
Is
Is
that
there
a
a
long?
special marking that says like official set or something like that used for Star Wars or something like that,
No,
or there's no
no,
particular?
no. It's just a hiking trail. You
Yeah,
know.
how long of a hike is it from the place you park your cars
Yeah, it
and to
has a
there?
very, very tiny parking lot. It holds about 5 cars.
Oof,
It's right off the side of a very busy kind of country road. You can whiz right past it and not even,
notice.
yeah, if you're
Wow.
not looking for it.
And that spot was how far away from that parking area? Like, is it a long hike or?
No, we didn't want people to have to, because when you're in costume and you can't see, you could see we had Chewbacca, and he has lifts,
Yeah.
and so we didn't want anybody, hurting themselves. And
Hmm.
so the fallen tree is just a couple feet in,
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
maybe,
Wow.
yeah, it's not far from the entrance.
Huh. So I kind of had a little bit of a spoiler, but what other costumes? I mean, I guess cosplay that you do besides the Scout Trooper. I see.
Well, besides the scout and my shore trooper, which I do for the Legion, I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is like my favorite movie, like period.
Okay.
So my, I've taken kind of that 501st approach to my Indiana Jones costume.
Hmm.
A lot of people, I'm in a lot of indie groups, and most people are fairly casual about it. I'm like, nope, everything's got to be screen accurate to that movie
Wow.
and that particular movie. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but the costume has significant changes from film to film. You can look at picture of Harrison Ford and figure and tell which movie it is
Just by seeing like the leather jacket or.
just by seeing the hat, the leather jacket. Yeah, it wasn't the same from each film. So you see my daughter, I built her a little mine cart, and she's short round.
Yeah.
Um, my son used to be my short round, but as you can see, he's taller than me now. So
Oh, right. Yeah.
I made him a little mutt costume from Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also and then my other favorite is Fallout. And yeah, that's my whole family, my wife, my daughter, my son, and we went to a New Vegas weekend at the in Good Springs, Nevada. Which,
Okay.
if you play New Vegas, that's where the game starts,
Okay.
and the town. One of the things people don't know about New Vegas is that the map is based on real places,
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
and Fallout fans are always shocked when they're like, "What? That's a real place? Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
a real place." So the town where you start in the game has kind of embraced the fandom, and last year they had their first like New Vegas day. Um,
Awesome.
Nice.
they were shocked that about 400 or 500 cosplayers showed up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now this year it's a weekend,
Nice.
and they
Oh,
moved it to November instead of July so that there would be less ambulances taking passing people passing out away because
Holy
it was
crap.
105 degrees.
ooh. Okay.
Yeah, Nevada's a hot place.
Mhm.
Speaking of family, I kept this photo for last just because it's absolutely incredible.
Wow.
So this is my shore trooper captain. And as you can see, I put the same amount of care and detail into
Yeah.
that I put into everything else. And then I 3D printed one for my daughter as well. And so yeah, we go to conventions and stuff, and we had a cool Scarif themed shoot in Malibu last year, and a bunch of us shore troopers and TKs, stormtroopers, came out and posed in front of the water and stuff. It was cool.
And you know what? I think that picture exemplifies everything that the 501st is. I mean, you can see it like a picture taken from a movie, but you can also see a loving father with your children, and living the passion they both share. I mean, I'm sure your daughter was thrilled to be cosplaying just like you were. I mean,
Yeah,
it must have been a tremendous experience, right?
yeah,
And what
totally.
what's her name?
Leia.
Yeah. I already knew the
Wow.
answer to that. I was setting that up for Dom there. Yeah.
Excellent. Wow, I didn't know that.
and,
Wow.
and and the cool thing is that it wasn't even my idea. That my wife
Oh,
pitched it,
nice.
so I was like, "Do it,
That was for me. Like
do it."
my wife wanted to have a middle name for our kids, and we don't have any. I mean, I have like three middle names because it's like some kind of traditional French thing from, I don't know, back in the day. You had to have like your grandfather, godfather, all this kind of stuff. So I got some weird French names, and I'm like, no, I'm not putting him through that. So she's like, what if I find a good name? And then I'm like, yeah, right, okay, we'll see. And she throws out a few, and I'm like, ma. And then she throws out Noel, and Noel Gallagher from Oasis is like one of my favorite artists, like for his poetry and lyrics and stuff like that. So when she threw out, I'm like, ah, all
You got
right,
me.
yeah, you got me on that one. So, but that was the only way I was gonna do it. So I'll go back to the Scout Troopers, and like this is a list that I got off the detachment, or this is off the 501st website, right?
Yeah, this is our roster. This is the Pathfinder detachment. I like to explain it as we are the Return of the Jedi Scout Troopers and the costumes that were inspired by that costume.
Okay.
That's, because some people don't understand why you have,
A scout
The
trooper is a
shore
scout trooper.
troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, these the costumes we have are like the legacy of of that of that costume.
True.
So we have the Kashyyyk clone from Revenge of the Sith. We've got the patrol trooper from Solo. I mean, if you've read like the Art of Solo, the book, you can see that in the original sketches they were supposed to be scout troopers.
Okay.
Really.
And yeah, the original drawings of what the
But
patrol trooper looked way more like a scout than the final product.
But then
But
Hasbro kicked in and said, "Well, we want to sell some action
we want to
figures from
sell
the
some.
new one."
Yeah, it's
We
always
don't want to
so.
repaint our stuff, then there you go.
But what they came up with, the scout ties are very
I
clear,
like
I
them. I
think.
mean, that if I were to build another one, I don't have any intention of doing so anytime soon, but that's one I would definitely explore. I really like the look of it. So,
I
Yeah,
think the
same.
helmet looks great. I mean, I'm an helmet collector, and the Patrol Trooper helmet looks absolutely awesome. It's
Well,
gorgeous.
if you wanna buy one, I'm selling mine.
Really?
uh-oh.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk
Okay,
about it
yeah, there you go.
after the show. Yeah.
You just
It's not assembled though, so it's a work in
Oh, okay.
progress.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well
Well,
now I might
you'll
be
have to send
interested.
it to Eric.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Eric will have to build it for me, and
Who knows? You might not get it after. So, here's I
that's
put a few of the shots. Surprised it wasn't your name that was there, but I guess you came in how long after the? Because you said you've been there for 9 years, but how long is the detachment, or I guess even the scout trooper, the first approved scout trooper? Would you know that?
The first approved, I mean the scout detachment started in like the year 2000.
Okay,
I
wow.
it's been a while.
actually
Wow.
Yeah, I went to I did a photo shoot about it was right before the pandemic, like maybe in 2019. And they had there was the droid builders were there too. And one of the droid builders was actually the founder of the Pathfinder detachment. He's since retired from the Legion,
Hmm.
but he just does droid builders. But he was the OG detachment leader, and I got to talk with him and learn a little bit of the history. And a lot of the detachments back in the day, they started on the old Yahoo groups.
Hmm.
They were independent from the Legion. They weren't,
Really? Huh.
yeah, they didn't come into the Legion umbrella until a couple years later.
Okay.
But Pathfinders was one of the original detachments, along with someone will correct me, I'm sure, but I think it was like Jolly Roger Squad and maybe the Moss Isley Police Department, the Sand Troopers.
Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, the Pathfinders has a pretty long and rich history.
I put a nice.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. Tell us about this costume compared to the last one. How?
I mean,
Yeah.
what do you want me to
Yeah.
say? Like
Channel
they
your dark side. You can go.
well,
You
I
can go on.
mean, it's it was a little perplexing to me when we first saw, the San Diego Comic-Con display because we didn't know about the Mandalorian at that time.
Yeah.
And we saw they had a scout up on a mannequin and they said, "Look, screen used armor." So we were like, "What? Screen used? That's that's a Walt Trooper Factory kit. What are they talking
Yeah.
about?" And the knees are upside down.
They're more
And the
aerodynamic like
cummerbund's
that.
flipping down, and it looks like what on earth? And we didn't find out until weeks or months later that it was the Mandalorian had already been shot, and that was one of the kits that they had on display. But I tweeted at them and I said, your knees are upside down, and they actually
Reply.
turned them over. Um,
Okay.
for San Diego, but the Mandalorian had already been shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were stuck there. But I think somebody was like, "Oh yeah, we screwed this up." Because they went and turned it over, and they also attempted to pull the cummerbund up to get rid of the gap.
Oh, did they? I didn't. That one I didn't notice.
Yeah, so I mean, what does that tell you? You
Well,
know,
maybe they just
It's
they
the people that get
just want to
the.
reveal the difference between the remnant and the
I
Imperials.
mean, I know.
Well, it's written
Yeah,
in the description, right? There's something about like the standards are not being kept. Something, if I remember, there's something in that description of the
yeah,
CRL, right? So,
that's how we paper over it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that.
So I got a
So
picture of
it's
me
like,
saying like, "Come on, Mickey, what's up? A little bit of love over here." So
I mean, the Walt chest is way too big.
it's long.
I mean,
Yeah.
it practically comes down to your gut,
Yeah.
and you can look at the the other picture, and you can see how short it's actually supposed to be.
Yeah, on yours,
Um,
hold on, go back over here.
yeah, go back to
This one here.
yeah. I
It's more
mean,
like a
look,
bra. I mean, I don't want to.
it's like
So
a bra.
yeah,
That's what I always tell
yeah.
people. It should stop right here. And I
This is like a bra, but for like a much older lady.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, it takes some sag into it,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
But for me, I mean, to my defense, and I think this is the part where you relate, it's just it was all about screen accuracy, and when I started purchasing, I knew this is the one I wanted to do, and I was, I guess, charmed by that scene with is it Jason Sudeikis, or I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah, and apparently
Yeah.
it actually was them on set. I always
Yeah.
thought it was
So
just
we found, yeah, I think I
VO.
found an old a photo, and you see them
Yeah,
without the helmet. So, I actually really I thought that scene was very entertaining. It was from the director of the Thor movies. Like I'm gonna mispronounce his name, so I'm not even gonna try. But
Taika Waititi.
yes, I actually really liked that. So I thought, okay, and it was gonna be different because there wasn't any at the time. So that's the build that I started, and then I started doing the research and like, okay, so they're using this, and again, from reading the forums, just going back to what we said earlier, just reading and reading and saying, okay, well, this is the one that's accurate because I find if you don't use the Walt and you got way too much of a gap between, and that really looks like you're wearing a bra at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought that with that the shape and also for me not being super, I guess, handyman whatever, like I was able to follow and trace the cuts the same way that they were in the reference photos because that's the one that they use. I could see where they cut. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when you get that big sheet of plastic or the what do you call it, the PVC, what's the material?
The
Yeah,
ABS.
the ABS, yeah. So I was able to see the cut lines. It's much easier for me to replicate what I was seeing, versus like again, if we go back to the picture here, the shoulders are completely different. So if I were to use that as a reference for a photo, I wouldn't
Yeah,
have the
these are
same look as
right.
that, right? So so anyway, for me, it was all about screen accuracy, and right today, with the exception to, I think it's just the strapping system is the only thing that's not, well, I guess in my opinion, 100% what they used on set, because I'm
Okay.
using the same cummerbund and everything that they were used. I know who they ordered it from and all that.
Yeah,
And even this helmet I've changed to get the EFX to have, again, it costs a lot of money, but I wanted the same one that they had on set. So
sure.
I went for that. And
Yeah, and I totally understand that
yeah,
drive.
even though it's not your favorite, but
I mean, it's not even close.
but let's move
I,
on. Let's move on from the Mando before it takes too much of
okay,
use
so
there.
this one is our latest CRL. And it's the tread speeder driver from
Rise of
Rise of
Skywalker, right?
Skywalker.
Okay.
Yes. And this one, we the it was us and FISD and Armored Cavalry. We kind of like, no, you take it. No, you take it. No, you take it. You know what I mean? It was like nobody really wanted it that strongly. Um, and also like there's no um there's no mandate to make a CRL, um, unless somebody's building it.
Yeah.
So for a while, nobody really touched this one. That's why we just finished it, and the movie came out like what 4 years ago
Yeah.
at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, it wasn't until Glenn Rhodes, down in I forgot what garrison, but it's one of the Australian ones. He said, "I'm going to build it." Because I guess he came across somebody gave him some of the boots. He got the boots,
Yeah.
so he's like, "Okay, I'm going to do this." As you can see, it's mostly a first order TK from
Yeah.
like about the waist up, and then from the waist down, it's got soft pants and
It's like shin
some kind
guards,
of
right? It's like not even
they
a full
almost
boot.
they're very patrol trooper esque.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it got kicked around to a couple of builders because look, Glenn started it, couldn't finish it. Then another guy picked it up and couldn't finish it. Then another guy picked it up and couldn't finish it. Another guy couldn't pick it up, picked up and couldn't finish it. So the CRL kept getting installed.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I and Justin, Mr. Poopy on the forum, we were like, we got to get this thing done, man. So we just recruited one of our garrison mates. That's TB whatever 92588. Is that what that says? I
Nine
can't.
two
It's a little,
six eight eight. Justin.
okay,
Oh,
nine two
wow.
six. Well, Justin took the photo.
Oh, okay.
92688 is the trooper that actually built the costume. He's like a buddy of ours. He's a good builder. We're like, hey Raj, we got something we want you to do for us. And he finally got this one over the finish line.
So that's him though. He's an actual TB. That's his. Okay. Because I mean.
Yeah, I mean he was already a biker scout.
Yeah.
So he already had a Pathfinder membership, but this is his second Pathfinder kit, and as far as I know, he's still the only one in the Legion. I'm not sure like how much demand there is for
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker kits.
Because I guess that 90% of the people think it's a regular first order stormtrooper riding that bike,
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
get that too, right? I mean, people see a TIE fighter pilot and call it Darth Vader, right? When we go to like
Yeah.
conventions. So I can't even imagine like them trying to pick out the difference between even this. I bet you some fans think it's a regular stormtrooper, right? They think
Yeah,
it's
it
just
was a little surprising to me that the production chose to be so lazy. Is that the word I'm looking for? Because their snow trooper was like, you're not
Over the top.
you're not going to confuse the snow trooper with
Definitely, yeah.
the TK.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this one, it's like, we'll just give him some pants.
Yeah, because
we already have the helmets on set.
Because he couldn't fit on the bike otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, had they done a different bucket, it would have been like
man, you're digging
a
deep.
lot easier to differentiate them.
I'll scroll through a few here, not to sit on too many of these, but like I saw this Kashyyyk trooper. I had never really seen that before, but like those biceps are a little weird. I had never seen that.
Yeah, this costume is pretty odd. I don't even know how to explain this one. This is like one of those
even the
weird
pouches.
Ones.
Yeah.
The
boots. It's
There's. Do you know what's that big head? Is it no Fathead? Fathead makes those big decals, right?
Yeah.
So they had a decal of this thing. It wasn't. They sold it as like a biker scout, but it was actually this thing. And
this thing. Yeah,
and they also a couple years ago there was a biker scout toy. It was like one of those 12-inch ones. Yeah. And it was a biker scout toy, but when you flipped it over, this was what was on the back.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yes. And then finally, a couple years ago on Star Tours, one of the iterations of Star Tours, you went to Endor on the ride, and you were pursued by biker scouts.
Oh, really?
It was actually these guys.
Jeez, and someone actually wanted to build this?
Yeah, yeah. So our former like Kashyyyk head guy was like, "Oh, a new Kashyyyk," and I'm pretty sure that's him in the costume.
Wow.
Only he's retired from the Legion, and the only other person that made one, he went and repurposed his into a regular Kashyyyk. So now this costume doesn't even exist anymore. Nobody has it.
It's in the archives. So this is the patrol trooper we're talking about earlier. Yeah. That I find it super slick. Yeah.
Yeah.
The back looks amazing.
It's got scout. It's got shore trooper. It's got TK.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of things going on, but you can't deny the scout, influence on it.
It's probably less the mobility on this one just because of the torso or the ab area is probably not as enjoyable as a regular scout. Like you can't probably bend over or anything like that.
Well, this costume, it's a hard piece. It was like 3D printed and then fiberglassed, I believe.
Okay.
But if you look at the few shots of the live action one, the cummerbund seems to be made out of like rubber.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think it actually is supposed to be a flexible piece.
Okay.
And I
Hmm.
know like Justin, who is also the model for our fallen, the one you just showed,
Yeah.
he 3D printed his with a flexible plastic, his center.
Ah.
Mm. That's I mean that for
So
me that's the last thing I'd want to do is go back to something where I can't sit down, and so with like the TK that was the biggest reason I moved to the because I remember my first troop it was the first troop as a regular like the TK the stormtrooper, and there was a scout trooper there, and he was our event coordinator, and all of a sudden I'm standing around, and they're like, okay, let's just take a break. I can't sit down. He sits down. I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting. And then
yeah,
I
Mhm.
can't take off my bucket because of the biceps and forearms, and I could take it off, but I'd have to take him off or have the handler help me, and that's already a bit of a pain
yeah,
because you got to twist it off your head almost like a bottle cap, and then
yes,
he just lifts the visor and starts drinking. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so this guy's sitting down, this guy's having a snack, drinking. I'm just standing straight up, waiting 15 minutes to go back, and like, well, okay, let's see what's next on the menu, and that's what
yeah.
inspired me for the next costume. So I have this one Fallen Order. This also from video game. Is this the only time we've ever seen this? Trooper was in Battlefront
Okay,
2.
so Johan, he was the other white Kashyyyk,
Okay.
and he repurposed that costume, and a lot of it went into this. And this is the
Hmm.
Kashyyyk officer from Battlefront 2, and as you can see, he did an amazing job with it. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
interesting.
The camo look, and then there's this
Here's
one.
that's
That's
the
from Revenge of the Sith, right?
yes, and I don't think all the details on this are right, but there's just so few Kashyyks. It's hard to get like updated photos
Yeah.
for everything, and we've tried to refine the CRL some and fix some of the mistakes, but it's like, okay, I need pictures now, and if nobody has them for you, there's really nothing you could do.
And we just have like a certain amount of reference images from that movie. I mean,
Very
it's
few.
not a huge scene. I mean, I remember Yoda decapitating the guy, but
Yeah,
we see him maybe once or twice before that, and
and they're CGI characters, which makes it
that's it.
even
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
difficult. You know. Okay, now was this one has an interesting history too. This one was made for episode 9 when Colin Trevorrow was supposed to be directing it. So
Okay.
but then he dropped out and episode 9 got sort of repurposed and by J.J. Abrams,
Hmm.
and so this guy ended up being a Galaxy Edge exclusive. And they were in the middle of designing live action kits so that this trooper would appear in the park
Okay.
while you were walking around.
On Batu. Yeah.
And then, like with so many things, and then the pandemic happened.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
So we kind of squeezed it in while it was still a possibility of it becoming a live action Batu character,
Hmm.
and then it got canceled. Um,
There's a lot
but
though in this. It almost looks like Shore Trooper, First Order, Scout, TK, all
yeah,
kind of like mashed up together. Like it looks like the visor looks like it's a mix of, I guess, Scout.
it's got Shore and
Yeah,
Scout
Shore. Yeah,
and First
it's really
Order.
weird. Looks like he's got a pull
It,
string in the back though. That's interesting.
it kind of looked like it could have been like a Ralph McQuarrie concept or something like
Yeah, and
that.
it probably was. Like so many of the new troopers that
Hmm.
they have, they go back to Ralph's original drawings. But I mean, this guy to me should have been the tread speeder driver, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
it would have made more sense. You would have
Yeah.
been like, okay, this guy looks like a scout, first order, but a scout.
So that's a
Because
good.
this afternoon I was browsing, all the images we just saw, and I'm I consider myself pretty good in lore stuff. And I was like, Mountain Trooper? Is that even a thing? I was like, and I saw Galaxy's Edge, and I was like, I never saw because I've seen like tons of images of Galaxy's Edge, and I haven't set foot yet over
Dom
there.
You
is
But
a
can
Dom's the
Almost
biggest
like,
Galaxy's Edge collector that hasn't stepped foot at Galaxy's Edge, I'd say.
Well, you can buy Mountain Trooper stuff there. They have patches and I think action figures, I believe.
okay.
Unless they've sold out of it since then and just not made more.
Yeah,
But
I
they
don't
did
remember
have.
seeing those, but the patches I didn't see. I'm pretty sure I didn't see any figures of that, but I wasn't really paying attention for them anyway. So,
So that's
I've
why I was
got.
like, Mountain Trooper? Really?
oh,
Nice.
so that
With
was an
the Galaxy's
exclusive
Edge
then.
logo on it, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. With the Black
So
Series.
Eric, I guess Nico must have it because he has all the
The Black Series exclusives.
Black
Or...
Series action. Yeah.
So this, the Shore Trooper for me is the one that I guess I've seen so many photos, but if you were to test me on which version I'm looking at all times, I'd have no idea because I find that these are the ones that look very much the same with the exception to, I guess, the cosmetics, like the paint on it. So maybe
And
you
some
can...
pouches too, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, they yeah, it's the paint, but there's also some build variety with certain of the troopers, and especially when you throw in the Battlefront ones.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
there's more build variety. The this guy and the last one you just showed, the Captain, which is the one I have, the build is the same.
Okay.
The only difference is the paint scheme.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with you choosing the captain because the blue just adds
Oh yeah,
more depth
it's so...
and
Well, also, like, I'm the detachment leader, so I thought, like, if I didn't do the
Yeah.
captain, it would be weird.
Obviously, yeah.
It's like the
You
number
know?
on the back of your jersey that you're wearing there too, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a one.
Yeah.
I
Um,
didn't let anybody else have that number.
I think we have a member in our garrison here in Quebec. That's that, right, Jeff?
Yeah,
Berard?
Jeff, yeah.
Captain.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's a lot of
it pops.
there's a lot of captains. All right, this one is probably the most popular non-Rogue One shore trooper,
Yeah,
and
specialist.
this
That's from a game?
Battlefront 2,
Okay.
and yeah, people love the paint scheme on this one.
It's basically
I'd
the
say,
same as the grunt except for the red, or...
except for it, yeah, it has a
Red shoulders.
red shoulders, the red stripe across the chest, and
Okay.
a little bit on the back too.
But the armor is still identical to the previous two, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
The Mandalorian introduced a squad leader variant that the build was the same as the Grunt, but with the squad leader paint scheme from Rogue One.
I didn't screw up the knees on this one. So...
You
All right, moving on.
Okay, here's the squad leader from Rogue One, and this one not only does it have a different paint scheme, but there's also build variety here, as in there's a comma instead of the hip armor. The belt and the belt boxes are different. The belt is black instead of brown. There's a little bit more going on here. This one, I don't know if it's still true, but a couple years ago, this one was, the most popular one to build because of the comma. The comma makes it really easy because you don't have to worry about the hip armor, the pouch.
Yeah.
The belt is fussier
It's
on
cheaper.
the other ones, and you can sit very easily in this one.
Yeah.
The hip armor makes it tough to sit unless you build it in a certain way.
Cool.
It's funny that since I'm in the process of being approved in the 501st, I pay so much attention to costumes now that I'm
Yeah.
always start looking at some tiny little details and
Yeah.
gribblies and stuff like that. I mean,
I was gonna say I've spent all my time in the Pathfinder detachment from beginning until now. The only other detachment I've paid any attention to is IOC,
okay,
Imperial officers, and that's because my wife, her 501st costumes are all officers because she doesn't want to wear a helmet and mess up her hair or
Oh,
cover her pretty face.
I should have put that picture of her latest costume. I don't know if it's approved though.
Daedra,
Yeah.
it's approved. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Nice.
Uh huh.
Yeah, because we covered that.
Daedra Miro
Yeah.
from Andor.
Did you see that picture, Dom? Did I send you that?
no, I didn't.
No. Oh, I gotta have to find a way to. I'll send it to you after. Is she the
Yeah,
Just
first or
no, 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 no.
no?
She no, I'm not sure how many were approved before her. It wasn't many. There might have been three or four. But
She definitely
yeah,
has a look for it.
yeah. There's not many blondes in Star Wars for some
true.
reason.
Yeah.
It's all brunettes and redheads.
Mm-hmm.
So when a blonde character comes along, we're like, all right, we
Yeah.
got one. Because
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, I know you can cosplay any character you want, and people will wear wigs. A lot of the wigs look really
Yeah.
bad. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
most of the
offense
time, yeah.
unless it's a really nice, expensive one, it's just gonna look a little off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't want to wear a wig to be a brunette or a redhead. She wants to wear her natural hair. So
Mm-hmm.
when Andor came along and we got a new blonde and a villain at that,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, boom, here's our next one.
Excellent. Because what's the other officer that was blonde? It was Juno
And that's the first,
Eclipse.
yes, and that's my wife's first other costume. She did that
Okay.
one first, which was also IOC. So,
So you spoke about the detachment. You've been there since the beginning, but how much time does it take out of your, I guess your, maybe not your day to day,
Week
but
schedule?
like yeah,
I,
like
you
balancing
know,
the detachment with your personal life and I guess regular job and all that. So
it's funny, like the thing that the funny thing about being in detachment command is like I hardly ever troop anymore
yeah,
because by the
Mm-hmm.
time the week is over, I'm like 501sted out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've dealt with detachment stuff. I've made people's trading cards. I've, dealt with merch issues. It's like, what, you want me to troop too? It's like, no. I'm here comes the weekend,
yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Um, that being said, I am actually trooping tomorrow morning. It'll be
No.
my second, maybe, or second or third time this year. It hasn't.
I've only done one this year too, because I became one of the event coordinators, which is not like crazy, but it's
Right.
still a lot of like emails
That's a
back
lot
and
of work.
forth. Yeah. So with that, I find myself kind of delegating to like one of the troopers. Hey, are you? Because I don't want to go to every event. Sometimes it's far, and I have two kids, and they're in
Yeah.
karate, and they got our schedules, and it's like when it's
And now
an hour
I'm
drive.
taxing his schedule as well with
Yeah,
the show.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I got an hour to drive and an hour to come back, that's 2 hours out of my weekend that's gone just traveling, going there, and it's exhausting for anyone who hasn't done it. You troop for 3 hours, and if you're out in the sun or something like that, it gets
Yeah.
you get very tired, and then you come back, it's like got to take a shower, all this stuff. It's just it takes a big chunk out of your day if you do find the time to troop, and I just try to
It's
pace
it's
myself,
strenuous.
right? There's that famous, and we'll talk about it with because we're talking to our garrison leader in the next few weeks as well. But there's that trooper fatigue, right? That they call, or trooper burn, or like what's the term that's commonly used? I know that we have ours there, but you get into it, you want to do everything, and then next thing you
Yeah.
know, you just
Yeah. My
turned off, right? So
my first year, I think I did 50 troops.
jeez,
Wow.
that's
And
crazy.
then, a little bit less. And now it's like I'm doing three or four a year. And a lot of it is because doing detachment work is, it's a lot of work too.
Mhm.
I'm on I don't know if you got, Eric, how much time you spend on the detachment, but I'm almost always on there. You look down at who's online, you'll see Biker Scout
Yeah.
007 most
You like
most hours
most
of the day.
recent threads or most recent posts, and there's answers there, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm the all-time post leader in the detachment's history.
Wow.
Nobody, I have over 10,000 posts on the forum. Nobody
Phew.
comes even close to me.
No, not me, that's for sure. So,
And go ahead.
um,
I'm sorry.
what I was gonna say though is, so did you guys with COVID? Because I know a lot of the garrisons, and I maybe not necessarily the detachment, but like a lot of garrisons. Did you guys find that like after when that came back, the participation was a lot lower, I guess, than it used to be? Because for us, that's something we're noticing. It's all the newbies that are doing the events, and that's it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, but um, it feels like it's coming back. And I'm here in Southern California. I'm here in Los Angeles,
Mm.
Hollywood, the movie
Yeah.
studios. Like, we get so many events every year that I don't know how our garrison command can handle it. It's crazy. I mean, hundreds of events a year.
Jeez, no.
um and we manage to get people out, even if it's just two or three. And and also it's a big, I'm sure your garrison's probably pretty spaced out as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, our province it's quite big, but obviously we're all hovering near the southern part of the province, so like near the
Sure,
Montreal and Quebec City, and that's basically where it is, and then a little bit in
sure.
between. And then anything that goes a little bit further west from like where I live falls into Ottawa, which is Ontario.
Okay.
But we don't have that many events. But I would only assume like we had something that was supposed to come up for like a Toys R Us, which would have been an official Lucasfilm event. So that got really popular. But I would assume that when it's for something that's more Hollywood type, people are more, I guess, inclined to want to participate for the, I guess the
Yeah, the
exposure rather
access.
than, when you're
Mhm.
doing your hospital visits, all of a sudden I find that
Yeah.
kind of died off a little bit, like, but
Well, I mean, part of it was because of COVID,
yeah,
right? They just didn't want us, these at-risk kids.
yeah.
You don't want a bunch of
Absolutely. Yeah.
strangers trampling through there. Um, our garrison, like I said, we get hundreds and hundreds of requests. We're right here in the heart of America's, or the world's, media empire.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of demand for us to come out for so many different events. I gotta be honest with you though, my participation is mostly through the detachment. I don't pay too much attention to like what's going on in the garrison. In the garrison, I'm just another trooper, like anybody else.
And
You
was
know?
that your garrison that was in the Mandalorian, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, believe there was a couple troopers from some neighboring like California garrisons, but for the most part, it was all this garrison.
I'm curious to see
Wow.
what the post would have looked like, the original post, because I mean they didn't tell them what they were where they were going, right, or what they were supposed to be doing. So
Yeah, and I don't really, those high profile requests that come in, I don't pay attention to those because they're never looking for scouts. They always want TK,
yeah,
Vader, Boba
Mhm.
Fett.
it was the
They
same
don't
thing. Yeah,
they don't want scouts. They
yeah.
want stormtroopers, So I don't pay attention to those things when they come
Mhm.
in. And yeah, I assume it was something like that, probably like a high profile event type of deal, you know, and it just went from there. I didn't even, they kept it, they did a good job keeping it secret. I didn't know about it until
Until it
we
was
were
done.
allowed. Yeah, and then everybody was allowed to talk.
So one thing I would ask is like, so someone that comes in to, let's say you're, I don't know if you guys have an information booth for the Pathfinders for the detachment. Is it just like the, I guess your garrison when you go to like a Comic Con or something like that? Do you have your own table
Not
or?
not not for the Pathfinders, no. I
Okay,
mean, for the 501st generally, and they'll have the little
Yeah.
book out with all the
the
different
CRLs and
CRLs in it. And if
yeah.
I'm there, I will, flip it over to the scout page and just leave it sitting out, put some of my trading cards down there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what
But
would you
no,
say to someone that came in and started like asking about it? Like, how would you describe it? Someone comes up because like everyone that walks up to like our booth is like,
you're like, hey,
"Oh,
do you want
cool,
to
Star
sit?
Wars." So yeah,
Do you like sitting?
Want to join
Have
the
that
Empire?
should be it. That should be written on the front page. Hey, if you want to sit, they'll be like, "What do you mean if you want to sit?" Well, if you pick that one, forget sitting,
Yeah,
forget
you can
drinking,
look.
forget taking a break.
Yeah, you can
It's
sit down and look cool. You know, like that. It just kind of sells it right there.
But would you how would you describe what the garrison does, or what even the 501st in your words? Like, because I always say it's like, it's because there's a lot of like a reputation, right? Like whether it's I guess we've heard that it's kind of considered a little pretentious because like we think our costumes are better than everyone else's and all this stuff. Like, so how would you describe the group, I guess, to someone of the 501st Legion in your words?
You see my daughter
Yeah, it's
sneaking
zero there.
right
Leia.
there. Yeah. How would I describe it? I mean, I like that we have the high standards. I think that's
Yeah.
what sets us apart and makes us, look better to the public. I think, a lot of people say like, oh, they don't, it doesn't matter, nobody notices this bolt, or you know what I'm
The
saying? But I think
cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
I think people
Yeah.
actually do. They just don't know how to put it into words.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you could
Like,
definitely notice a Walmart costume, right? You can tell something's
right.
off, right? Like when you see
Yeah,
it, you're like, well, that looks like a stormtrooper, but
and then somebody points it out, and you go, well, this and this, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay. But
yeah.
I don't think the average member of the public has the words for it. So
Hmm.
they just know it, and they can tell.
But you could see it.
They
Like I don't know about you, but like when I'm behind the helmet and there's plenty of people that are dressed up in Star Wars stuff around. But when you walk by,
exactly.
all of a sudden they're like, "Wait a minute!" they could tell. Wait, that's not some guy's.
Right.
He kind of like made it, put it together with like papier mâché or whatever. Like this looks legit, and they know that like all of a sudden this has got a little bit more serious. So,
Yeah.
it's not to
So
be pretentious, but like for me the way I describe it is like when we go see a kid in the hospital, he almost has no doubt that is a real stormtrooper, that is the real Darth Vader.
yeah,
um
he's or she is getting that film experience that, they
Because nothing breaks the character more than seeing someone's, the back of the head of wearing a mask. I mean,
I
But
have
if you went to that hospital, to visit that same kid wearing like the Ruby's stormtrooper,
mm-hmm.
even a kid would be like, something's, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
it's not to be elite, but I like that we have the standards that set us apart, make us a cut above, and I don't think they're impossible to achieve. And as a detachment, that's what we're there for, is to make it possible for you to reach these high standards, so that you can join in and give people that same sense of awe when they see you, and you're like, wow, this is the same thing that I saw on my TV last night
yeah.
you
Well,
know
my
Sure.
kid is like very observant. Like, and he shows me sometimes some Lego figurines. He's like, "Well, that's the ugly helmet." I'm like, "What are you talking about? The ugly helmet?" And he'll show me the difference between that stormtrooper and that stormtrooper. He's like, "I don't like this one." And like even me, being in the 501st, noticing a lot of these differences, I couldn't see what he was seeing until he really pointed it out. So I can only
yeah,
imagine when it's something at a life size scale that he's like,
yeah.
what he's picking
Kids don't
out, right?
that's one of the common things you hear people say, oh, kids don't care about this stuff. Kids notice everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they don't get fooled easily.
They know.
They're not
They
filled
notice
with
everything.
mortgages and bill payments and credit cards.
Nope.
That's all they got to
This is
worry about
all
is
they
wait a
have
minute. Yeah.
time to think about, and they will let you know.
Yeah. That color's
They will
wrong.
let
It's
you
not
know
supposed to be
something's
there.
wrong.
It's yeah. My kid
Yeah, so
notices all that stuff all the time. And like if it was a pauldron, he'd be like, "It's on the wrong side." I'm like,
yeah,
"Wow,
and I
okay,
and I think those, that level of accuracy we should go for, because I think it does kind of, bring people that sense of wonder
Yeah.
that store-bought costumes just not gonna do.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well,
It's not to say that, those people that are just in it to, get like a quick thing to put on at a con aren't, big Star Wars fans too,
Mm-hmm.
that they totally are. And a lot of them probably know more about Star Wars than I do.
oh yeah,
As I told you guys earlier, if
yeah,
it's not the original trilogy, my my interest starts dropping. But if I love costuming. It's just like with the Indiana Jones thing, where it's like every movie is slightly different. Like those kind of things, I just eat up.
Yeah.
And that's why I've leaned hard into this aspect of the Legion, the standards, the helping people build, you know, that end of things. It's my passion.
So how close are we with this one? I think you were talking about your current scout trooper, right? You said that.
This one, okay. So the only thing that's left for me to do on this one is I finally got my hands on a vintage Averex flight suit,
Okay.
like the ones they wore in the film, and I just need to get it all fixed up with the with the suede and the straps.
I noticed the
And
boots
then,
though. This one for me is like, is it a thicker kind of material than? Well, I'm not going to compare
well,
it to
it's
the.
leather.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
leather instead of marine vinyl because they use leather in the films.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I wanted leather uppers on my boots, and I found a pair of the vintage boots that they used for Return of the Jedi, um,
I can't even
which
imagine how difficult it
came.
is to get that accuracy for something that's that old compared to me. Like I would just reached out to the person who sent it to them a year before, and I'm like, all right, can you make this? Like, sure,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Let me go to Walmart and get
Yeah.
the boots that I used. Sure. Yeah, these the Sierra sneakers, you know, they're 40, 50 years old. They don't make them anymore, and
Mhm.
I wear a size 12,
Okay.
so it's hard to even get them in my size.
Yeah.
But you know, after searching and searching and searching, I finally got a pair, and I had leather uppers put on them so that they were just like the ones they used in Return of the Jedi.
Sounds a lot easier than what I made. So, but they got lazy.
Yeah,
I get it. It's all right.
I
But
mean the gloves, same thing with the gloves. Those are spree gloves. They're 40, 50 years old. You know, I had to peck around on eBay until I found a pair in my size, and they were in really rough shape.
jeez.
So, but I finally got a pair of the original gloves. You know, it's like I said, I'm passionate about this stuff.
You're the leader, right? So you gotta lead by example. But
Set the
it'd be
example,
almost
yeah.
impossible for someone to build one, I guess, to that level of accuracy now, right? Like, I mean,
It's tough, you know. I mean, in some ways we're lucky. Okay, like we're living in times where we have helmets like the EFX and the RS props that are like made from the original molds, so they're like perfect. You know,
yeah,
when I started, like Crop Circle was like, yeah, that one's pretty good,
yeah,
you know. And now you look at it now and it's like, no, you
yeah,
know, it's not even close.
yeah.
But um,
So you're telling me Eric sold me some crap?
Light crap though.
hey,
It's a lot lighter. So
hey, but you know what? Kids will never notice.
yeah,
Yeah.
that I
So,
actually like that helmet though. Like I thought, because I looked through a lot, and obviously, like without trying to knock any company in particular, that one compared to I think you're the one that referred to me,
I
considering they're
did
also in
because
Canada, right? So
yes, they're in Canada. They, it's a simple build.
yeah.
It's light. It's a larger than like the Studio Creations one, so more people can wear it. Like I
Mhm.
think for a simple helmet that you just want to get approved in, I think it's a great option. And I wouldn't, you know, you could knock it a little bit for accuracy, but you know, it comes up some points when it comes to like ease and wearability. You know, there's a lot of things it has going for it. It still
Mhm.
does even after all these years.
Yeah. No.
And it's basically the same helmet that it was, you know, 10 or 12 years ago whenever they first started making them, but it still has things about it that make it a good helmet for today.
I think in terms of accuracy, they all have their little. Because I mean, I looked at I don't know how many different helmet reviews or comparisons and stuff like that, and I find that they each have their. I don't want to say pros and cons, but when it comes to inaccuracies, they all have them, right? Whether it be the way that they make them, through that kind of vacuum system or whatnot.
Sure.
Yeah, so like I know, like if you look at Waltz, you have to kind of like so that the ear holes are a little bit more deep, but you have to kind of stick the two pieces together. And then this one was, like you said, was a lot easier to build compared to that.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
honestly, I think Walt should have gone for that approach too. I don't think that he helped himself by doing the build like the originals were made.
Yeah.
I just don't think the helmet needed that to be that complicated.
For me, it was I was nervous about the color, like matching the helmet, because since it's not
Right.
the same material, I was really nervous about the color scheme, like the white matching the white and everything like that, spray painting, and
Yeah.
so I
But
thought it was a little easier.
that's common with scouts though. I mean, even the ones in the movie in Return of the Jedi were like that because the helmets were painted and the armor wasn't.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's just being a scout, man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
You
for me,
know?
I even it out by just weathering the whole damn thing anyway, so you
Yeah,
can't even see it, right? So,
right, exactly.
well, I noticed it.
Exactly.
So, like, actually, if I go back to the picture that I had before,
Sure.
it's where was it here? It was the I notice it, and I'm not sure if anyone else does, but there is a difference between the white of the helmet and the armor. Um, but this is obviously there's a filter on it and everything. But when I look at my other photos like that, I could see that there's a little bit more of a yellow tint to I don't want to say yellow. I
Sure.
don't know how to say it. It's like that bright white and like that day white and that kind of warm white that you
Yeah.
have when you're
Warm
buying
white,
light
cold white.
bulbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it on the helmet and the armor. You don't see it as much there because there's so much shadowing, but there is a difference between the armor and maybe it's the OCD inside of me, but it was bugging me
It's
That
at one
tough.
element,
point.
that
So
element is the one I have now.
yeah, the one in that
Yeah.
photo that's
Okay.
the one
That's
you
the
have back
that's the
behind
crop
you.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet Mickey
And
can
it
pick them all out in a line with tell you exactly which one is which.
I
Hmm.
used to be pretty good at it, but we there's so many people jumping into prop making now too. Like the 3D printing has
Yeah, that's
really
crazy.
brought more people into
Yeah.
it, and people are always coming out with new scout helmets and scout armors, and I'm like, we already got the best, man.
Does that make it difficult though, the whole 3D printing thing now? Because like someone could just not even go through any
we
of the prop makers, right, and just really just
Yeah.
print their whole thing,
Well,
and now you have to worry about looking at I guess more dimensions. Because I would you ask like I guess you could say like in mine you'd be like, well, it said that's the wall trooper. I bought this helmet from here and I bought it, but now it's like, well, I made it all from scratch. Does that
we've
make
had we've had to revise the CRL a little bit to address
Hmm.
some of the same issues that kept popping up with the 3D helmets.
Yeah.
Because people would like design them themselves from scratch in a CAD program, and they would put all this extra stuff into them that isn't there,
okay?
like actual vents, for instance.
Okay.
Hmm.
And people would come and be like, "Hey, I printed this," and we're like, "Well, you got to fill in all those vents." Put stickers on it like in the originals, get rid of this. You have to actually have ears cut out,
Yeah.
and with 3D printing, sometimes you can't, it's not so easy to do things like that.
Hmm.
What were they?
If you
What
don't,
were they doing for the ears that you saying you had to cut them out? They just
they would just be solid and they have to like put a sticker or something.
oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so
And
they would have stickers in the wrong place.
And then after that, holes where they're not supposed to, and
Yeah, exactly. So we actually had to revise the CRL to be very explicit about the helmets in particular.
really,
Hmm.
and just by curiosity, not saying that it's going to be near accurate, but are you curious to see what the Black Series will do with their version of the Scout Trooper helmet?
Well, we've seen enough of it to know that we're not going to recommend it for somebody that wants to join the 501st as a
Hmm.
scout. If you want to buy it for your own personal use or have it as a display piece in your house, that's totally fine.
Hmm.
But there's so many issues with it that I don't know. I don't even know if you could make all the changes that need to be made to it to make it a screen accurate prop.
now I'm
Yeah.
curious. What is off the top of your head? What's one or two that you've noticed?
Well, the biggest and the biggest deal breaker is probably the visor being all solid on the inside,
Okay.
which, as you know, it's kind of like it's you know what I'm saying? It's not a solid piece, a solid thick piece of plastic. there's like a return edge, and then on the inside it's kind of like
Wow.
hollow.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they
On the Black Series ones, it's one solid thick piece of plastic, and I mean right there.
it's for their production, I guess, that the way that they.
Yeah, I mean it's wired up. It does sound effects.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'd
Well, I
probably
was about
get
to
one
talk
for my
about the battery
daughter.
compartment. Yeah, because for the Stormtrooper helmet, the battery compartment was like so ugly. You could see
Yeah.
the opening and everything. They did a better
That's
job with the first order one because they hit it, somewhere
yeah.
near the border at the bottom, and they are doing a better job. I did those battery compartments, but yeah, I'm curious
Well, in
to
the
see
Scout
where they
Trooper,
put it.
you can see the grooves around the
Okay,
the bat.
Oh,
You
really?
that's
know,
about
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Done.
that's another thing that you'd have to
Hmm.
fill it in, repaint it, and I just
At the
it's
price, you
I
might as well buy it and build it yourself because it's not going to end up being. It's actually going to end up being cheaper. I guess
yeah,
more work, but you'll have a
just
more
Well,
get a
here,
crop
here
accurate.
in
circle.
Canada,
Yeah.
everything is
Exactly.
more expensive. I mean, yeah, for you guys, I think it's going to be like $135. Here it's like 170,
Yeah.
175,
Canadian dollars is
Right,
just
sometimes
crazy.
$200.
right,
So yeah,
right, and just
it can be
spend a little bit
painful
more.
for the wallet. I mean, I have all the Black Series helmet right now, and I'm starting to think, well, should I stay a completionist or should I start selling some? Because
Right.
I'm running out of real estate. I mean, when you're thinking about making an extension to your Star Wars room from the outside, maybe it's time to sell a few pieces.
You don't
So,
need a washroom. Get rid of that.
yeah, who needs to take a shower, right?
It just depends what you want it for, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, if it's just a display piece for your nice cabinet, it's fine. If it's for
because we have
tripping in
like
the
what
Legion, no.
5 repaints for the Stormtrooper. We have
Well, yeah.
four
Well, they milk their licenses,
Boba
right?
Fett repaints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and they need to pay for those because they scanned apparently the Lucas files for the Boba Fett helmet. So if they want to make enough money to pay off only to for having access to those documents, I mean, they need to make like what 5 or 6 repaints, and now we're gonna get our sixth repaint for that helmet with the Axe Wolves helmet coming up.
oh my
Well, I
gosh.
remember when they did the Scout Trooper Black series from Mandalorian. I was like upset because I'm like, well, the cummerbund's not even dipping, the knees are not even upside down. I'm like, you
They're
just
not
you
gonna
just dirtied up the Endor one, and now they have
Yeah,
the. Do you see the vintage collection one that's coming out? It's actually got the cummerbund that's lower and the upside down knees. And when
did you
they spoke about the preview of it, yeah, it's going to be a vintage collection that comes with the speeder and everything. And the guy
okay.
said it. He goes, "Oh, it's just like the show now. You're going to get the bag, you're going to get the upside down knees and all this stuff." And I'm like, "All right." So they finally did a new mold for the Mandalorian. It's getting a little bit of love. So it's got to get some somewhere, right? So but you
Great.
know what? That with that costume and I've seen plenty of regular scout troopers that do the whole bag and Grogu thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a
drives me crazy.
Grogu behind me. It's like the sideshow one, but
Hmm.
the one in the bag is obviously the Walmart one because kids touch it and grab it and all that stuff. But that's a huge
Right.
hit. I did it the parade, the Santa Claus parade, and kids were like, they didn't even notice there was a scout trooper there. They just saw that I had Grogu in the bag, and in the end, I know it's kind of like a, I don't want to say selling out, but like it's the kids love that, right? So if they're happy, they're excited and they get to see it and touch it, then great, have fun
Yeah.
with it. But I've seen a lot of regular scout troopers do the bag thing, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, no, no. If you're not flipping your knees, I don't want to see that bag on you. So
Yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah.
never adding it to the CRLs. So,
yeah,
if that's a garrison thing, if the garrison says this is a canon, CRL enforced event, then it should only be on the Mando Scouts.
yeah,
If it's looser or a convention, then whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
But we had when we went up to Endor last weekend, um we had a scout there with the Grogu bag, and I was like, all right, we're doing the Return of the Jedi photo now. You have to take that thing off.
Mhm.
He's like, what
I
about that
also
short trooper over there, though? What are you doing about that?
well, I
Like,
mean, for
yeah,
everybody that was non Return of the Jedi had to step out for that photo.
yeah.
But we did different themed
Of
photos.
course. Yeah.
We did everybody. We did Return of the Jedi. We did just Scouts. Just Rebels. Um, we made the most out of our
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
our
Yeah.
for
time
sure.
there. So yeah, for the Return of the Jedi photo, I was like Grogu bags out.
You better make sure those
D
knees are not upside down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
said that too.
If they are, get in the back of the picture.
You
Yeah,
pull up that cummerbund.
DLTs down. I don't want to see any DLTs in this photo.
Yeah. Where
Pea
would that
shooters
even come
only.
from, the DLT?
Battlefront, the 2004, the original
Oh,
Battlefront.
okay.
Okay.
I see
They
those
needed
all
a
the time.
sniper class. They
Okay.
needed a sniper class character, and they picked the scout for that.
Yeah, okay. That explains. Even the game, I always want to take it. I've played it a few times. My son plays it, and I'm like, oh, this guy sucks, man. Like, just give him a sniper,
Well,
and that's it.
this was the OG Battlefront, the original Battlefront series from 0405.
Yeah.
They kept it up for the the more recent iteration of it, but that's when
Yeah.
the long rifle stuff started.
And even I think I did kind of brush on it real quick, but I mean that Scout Trooper really came back to life in the video games with the whole Fallen Order and Survivor, right? Like he's one of the main, I
Yeah,
guess, what do you call it,
and
villains that you
we
see
did
throughout the game.
one of the your major opponents that you fight over and over
Yeah.
again, sure. And we did a CRL for that one, and thank God, Justin, Mr. Poopy, he's really good with CAD, man, and he created all that stuff, the riot baton, the little battery pack.
Yeah.
Like
Cool.
he designed it all up, 3D printed it, made the files available for other people that wanted to do that trooper. So
Is it
yeah,
much
when you
different than
see
the Endor, or
well, yeah, there's some differences because the model of the Scout, the base Scout, is based on the Battlefront 2 Scout, which is they took some shortcuts with it.
okay?
So you're already starting with a slightly different model to begin with, and then
There's like
the JF
suspenders, right, or something, or not
well, the
suspenders, but
JFO Scout has right, and then it has that harness.
yeah.
It has a cummerbund with lines that go all the way around it
Okay.
Mm.
because there's no pouches.
Oh,
True.
I never even
Yeah,
really paid attention to it, to be honest with you. I just noticed that I just
Mm.
have to keep
kids
killing them.
notice.
Yeah, kids will probably
Yeah.
know for
Notice.
sure. It's funny I'm saying
Yeah,
that, but my kid brought me that figurine downstairs because he's slowly not playing with toys anymore. Not that he ever really played; he just mostly just posed them.
yeah.
But he came downstairs and gave me the Scout Trooper. He found the baton. And he's like, "Here, put it with your other Jedi Fallen Order Survivor stuff that you have with you." So I'm like, "All right, cool, I'll take it."
I have that. I think I have that one too. Hold on. Yep.
It's a video
Here we
game
go.
series, or yeah. Oh, there you go. That's a good look. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's no
Excellent.
pouches.
No
Yeah.
pouches.
Hmm.
Yep. And so yeah, like this battery pack and the riot baton, all that stuff had to be designed. Nobody had. It wasn't a part you could go buy at the hardware store.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It all had to be designed from scratch, and Justin did all that. So
Oh.
All right, well, Dom, I don't know if you have any more questions or anything you want to ask, but
No, I think
think
we did a pretty nice shot, almost an hour and a half now. So yeah,
oh,
it was fun. Time flies
time
when you're in
flies.
good
yeah.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love talking about costumes, man. So
Yeah,
anytime.
well, I think this video will be like more of an educational purpose now, so it's gonna be pretty fun. So,
Well
if I
then,
have to sum it up in a few things that we have to remember now, is like you're planning on being the 501st, find your detachment, ask
yes,
all your questions, and then you can begin with the process of assembling all the parts you need for your costume.
Yes, don't be
And
afraid to reach out. We are here to help you. And the best thing about helping is that it saves you money.
true,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
Like
true.
costuming is not a cheap hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's this one thing
So
I've already said. Like the few people are like, "Oh, your costume." Like that costs a lot of money, and I'm not gonna get it back. I like it. You could do paid gigs, I guess, but I'll probably never do that. And it's just I did it. The reward that you get is the smile on the kids and the parents' faces, especially who grew up with it, right? So
Yep.
it's more than enough
uh,
reward for me. So
so
Oh
for
yeah.
those who are still watching, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Oops, wrong franchise.
yeah, exactly.
I like that one too, though.
Yeah, yeah, me too. So, well, thank you so much, Mickey, for joining us and
Of
being
course.
so generous with us. And I hope, I don't hope, I'm sure our viewers will enjoy watching the show. And, well, if everyone stayed for more than an hour and a half with us, thank you for watching. And I hope you guys have a nice day. So, may the force be with you.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.